Throwbacks podcast with Derek J. Murphy, chapter 1, verse 1. So, a couple years ago, I wrote this book entitled Throwbacks, The Unexpected Theology of Old School Hip Hop and R&B, because I'm a product of the 80s. I was born in the late 70s, raised in the 80s, came of age in the 90s, and the music of that time just speaks to me. It still speaks to me. When I listen to the radio and songs from that era come on, I bump them like they just came out last week. The music from that era just speaks to my history, my childhood, all the things that I've experienced, all the things that I've been through. And I know that there are a lot of people out there just like me. A lot of people who love that music, who love that old school R&B, that have a love for that old school hip hop. And so I thought it would be a really good thing to continue the conversation by doing this podcast. And so thank you for joining me on this journey. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm, just getting to it. But better late than never, right? So I'm excited about this podcast, and I pray that you would come on this journey with me as we explore these songs and find unexpected inspiration and motivation and value for our life. So, with this being an old school focus, it's kind of ironic that we're starting at the year 2000. Yep, I said it. The year 2000. The year 2000 is now old school. It is literally 25 years ago. 25 years ago, this song came out, and George W. Bush and Al Gore were emerging as the front runners for the presidential election that year. The Rams were still in St. Louis, and they beat the Tennessee Titans for the Super Bowl that year. And in the year 2000, I was in college. And instead of going to class like I was supposed to, we listen, we don't judge. I was in the TV room playing dominoes. Me and my friends, we were hanging out, not doing what we were supposed to do, playing dominoes, having a good time. And 106 in Park, that old video countdown that came on BET, was on. It was the previous day's episode that we were watching after the fact. And in that episode, they were premiering or debuting the latest song from Outkast called B.O.B. Now, you got to know Outkast. Outkast, which was formed in 1992, they rose to fame around 1994 with Southern playalistic Cadillac funky music. It was smooth, it was funky, it was something for pimps to ride out to. Uh, Nothing really hard hitting, just real smooth. And that's what they were known for. They became real popular. They even won Best New Artist of the Year at the Source Awards in 1995, which was at the height of the East Coast, West Coast beef. In fact, at that award, Dre is remembered for saying, the South got something to say. Y'all don't have love for the South? It was the rise of the South joining the conversation with hip hop. And their music, again, was smooth and funky. But about the time they came to their second album, AT Aliens, and the third album, Aquemini, they began to experiment with different sounds. Dre began to dress a little different, but they still kind of stayed in that same bubble of what we were used to. And then here we are in the year 2000, 106 in Park is debuting their new single, B.O.B. And the beat drops. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, in slum, national, underground thunder pounds. When I drop the pound like a million elephants. Let me tell you something. We stopped playing dominoes. Stopped us in our tracks. And all we could do was turn around and look at the TV because Who y'all say this was? This is who? This is Outkast. Number one, it was faster than we expected because everything Outkast did was smooth and funky. That bass hit harder than we had ever heard from Outkast. And then the flow was different. The way that they were rapping, it didn't sound like anything that we had ever heard from them. It was a blend of 80s hip hop, funk, and rock and roll with a little bit of gospel in it. It was captivating. It caught our attention. The game stopped, and all we could do was stare at the TV, bouncing our shoulders, confused that this was Outkast. And even the video. The video was colorful, had angles that put you in mind of Busta Rhymes and Hype Williams and how they did videos. One critic said that it had all the elements of a regular hip hop video: cars, girls, bling, that we had become accustomed to. But it was all that on psychedelics. It was something that we had never seen before. It was fast paced, and Dre was dressing weirder than we were used to. He was out there, but not like this. This was completely different. It all had us glued to the screen. And even when you think about the lyrics that Dre puts in that first verse, this album, Stankonia from Outkast, really solidifies Dre as one of the greatest lyricists of all time. And this verse does not disappoint. The way that he puts his flow together, how fast he's rapping, and the things he's saying, what the song is really talking about is coming from a bad place, but trying to make the best of a bad situation. In so many words, the last line encourages the listener to expand their mind and believe that there's always more. There's more to the world than what you see before you. These two guys coming from the hood, coming from the slums, as they would call it, they knew that there was something more to the world than what they had seen thus prior. And so with that, they attacked the world with their music and began to grow. They didn't allow their music to keep them stuck. They grew as they were creating. And this album, I'll tell you what, this Stankonia was a classic, an instant classic. It was the highest selling album from Outkast at the time. And in the year 2000, it was the first hip hop album that I ever personally bought. Now, I know that's a little strange. I said that I was into old school hip hop and R&B. Even though I knew a lot of hip hop songs, I had never bought an album before Stankonia. Stankonia was the first hip hop album that I bought. And it was largely because of the influence of this song. This song really captures Outkast and their natural trajectory to even what they're doing today. Even though they're not rapping or doing anything together, it kind of speaks to the type of people that they are, willing to experiment and grow and do things differently. So how do we go from the song to finding value and inspiration? 1 Samuel 17, 48 through 50. Then it happened when the Philistine rose and came and drew near to meet David, that David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took from it a stone and slung it and stuck the Philistine in his forehead. And the stone sank into his forehead so that he fell on his face to the ground. Thus, David prevailed. Hellfires, Mavericks, and tow missiles in 1991. Cruise missiles in 1993. Tomahawks in 1998. The fall of Baghdad in 2003. In my lifetime, I've been able to watch the bombs fall over Baghdad almost live. My original interest in the conflict with Iraq stemmed from the fact that my brother was sent to Saudi Arabia for the first Gulf War. I can remember being glued to the screen and watching little green dots fall to their exploding end. These weren't big blanket bombs dropped over the city. These were strategic, target focused missiles designed to lock their sights and destroy their intended object. You and I are built in the very same way. We are designed with the ability to set our aim and focus on our target until we reach it. When you set your sights on a target, your body releases a chemical called dopamine that gives you a sensation of accomplishment and gratification. In the same way, whenever you can sense that you're getting closer to your goal, your body releases another round of that same chemical until you finally reach it. And reaching that goal releases the final explosion of the feel-good chemical. Unfortunately, many of us allow ourselves to get distracted and turn our eyes away from our goals, because we could find the same sensation of accomplishment when we buy expensive things. So while biologically we feel good, psychologically we can't sustain the feeling, because there's no true satisfaction in things. We can also find the same sensation in superficial interaction with others, but there is no true satisfaction in superficiality. So while we can trick our body into a good feeling, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually, we become bankrupt, because there's no lasting fulfillment in relationships with no depth. If you desire true fulfillment, you must live your life with intentionality. You must live your life intentionally instead of simply existing and reacting. You must actively pursue your life with precision. Like a laser-guided missile, you have to be connected to your creator, who is always pointing you in the right direction, his right direction. Like a heat-seeking missile, you have to be sensitive to the opportunities worth seizing. Like an optically guided missile, you have to secure a clear vision and aggressively chase it down. Like a cruise missile, you have to remain focused for the long haul. And like a stealth bomber, you sometimes have to operate under the radar without attracting distraction. You must live your life intentionally. Make a plan, write it down, stay focused, work hard, push through, remain connected to God and to other people who truly love you. You must live your life intentionally. And when purpose, destiny, and skill collide, you'll see an explosion of accomplishment. You must live your life intentionally. In other words, don't pull the thing out unless you plan to bang. And don't plan to bang unless you plan to hit something. Bombs over Baghdad. I want to thank you for joining me with this podcast, and I hope that you'll join me every week as we explore other songs and break them down to add value, inspiration, and motivation to our life. If you're interested in the book, you can visit my website, DerrickJMurphy.com. You can order a copy of the book there. And if you just want to join this community and talk about the songs that raised us and then see how we can flip it and add value to our life, you are more than welcome to come back. Same place, same time, and be blessed.